The Death of the Social Justice Warrior by S.D. Wickett. I distinctly recall the first time I noticed it, this new way of talking, of thinking. American in its inception, yet soon it would spread into other Western countries, providing each with its own crisis. It is a way of thinking that suggests that our homes are hotbeds of unspeakable evil, that our nations must be punished for their histories, and that we are not allowed to belong, for we are the recipients of a new original sin, that of perceived privilege. It was the summer of 2015 and I was 18 years old. I travelled to Israel and found myself in Tel Aviv, crammed into a 3-bedroom flat with 7 roommates, 6 Americans and 1 Canadian. Israel, Tel Aviv in particular, has a large American population, most young, most liberal. It was here that phrases like white privilege, rape culture, systemic oppression and transphobia first became known to me. My response then was the same for the next couple of years, confusion followed by amusement. Over the next year, I couldn't help but gorge myself on YouTube videos, the titles of which followed a clear style guide. There was always an SJW, and they always got owned, silenced, or destroyed, or, in a particularly good video, all 3 at once. The joke was too much to resist. These people, often young, naive, and incapable of defending their ideas in the face of mild critique, could never be taken seriously, and would never be in any serious power. Oh, how wrong I was. At some point, which I will attempt to locate in this article, that approach died and one of caution replaced it, itself replaced by neurosis and hopelessness in due time. The joke was over, and the true malice of this new social prism had made itself nakedly obvious. I call this moment the death of the social justice warrior. I must make clear that it was not the movement that died, nor the people, nor their ideas. It was the joke, the mockery, the lack of any tangible threat to our social fabric. The name social justice warrior is a pejorative. It belongs to the detractor. The entity which fits the description has never held the term as its own. In the same vein, conservatives and even some libertarians caught in the crossfire have no attachment to the accusation of racist, fascist, or misogynist. The term social justice warrior no longer applies to the modern radical left. That term denotes a baying, sanctimonious, but ultimately pathetic corner of the political realm. But the joke is over, and this is serious now. We laughed at them when they were confined to the campus, but we aren't laughing anymore. This is no longer a group of kids running around their university, stomping their feet about microaggressions or a Ben Shapiro lecture. This is a powerful and radicalized fifth column in Western societies, one with uniforms, flags, deities, and a set of inalienable objectives. It is a movement which is the same in every country, giving the reactionary forces to it an inherent disadvantage. By the time I'd gone to university in autumn of that year, I had largely forgotten about the bizarre rhetoric that had filled bar chats in the summer before. It seemed insular, a particularly American disease. Even the ascension of Jeremy Corbyn to the Labour leadership hadn't done much to disrupt the flow of daily life. For now, Labour was the same as it had been, fixed on Palestine against the bastard Tories and austerity, but never fundamentally anti-British. The thought of the cenotaph or an iconic statue being felled and vandalised was unthinkable. And then we started winning. I recall 2 conversations that I had with an acquaintance, one before the referendum and one after. Both were amicable, intellectual, and respectful, until one moment in the second conversation when it became known that I had voted for the UK to leave the European Union. Now, I'd been in fierce debates before, but never had seen eyes widened with hatred in the way that I did that evening. This was far beyond a mere disagreement on the geopolitical direction of our country. To her, I was a villain of the most despicable variety. I didn't deserve time to think or a different conclusion to come to. It is a sight and a feeling that I am yet to unsee. As is typically the case, we were upstaged by the Americans as riots broke out in the US following the shock victory of Donald Trump in November of 2016. It almost seemed as though Trump gave the social justice warrior what it truly needed. Not a leader, but a target, a symbol. Suddenly, the dynamic changed as an antagonistic press whipped up hysteria around the Trump presidency. Assaulting any appendix of that symbol became not only justified, but encouraged. Was this the death of the social justice warrior? Not quite. While the aggression and hysteria ramped up consistently between 2016 and 2020, some inexplicable force kept its darkest element at bay. The desire to attack and destroy anything deemed Western, to tear down anything held as sacred and sacrosanct. It was in that woe-filled year of 2020 that the joke ceased to be. Going into that year, we had hope in the reactionary camp. The platform of the SJW had been dealt a hammer blow in the UK general election of December 2019, and it seemed that, barring a significant turn of events, Donald Trump would serve a second term as president. And yet, on one fateful day in Minneapolis, it died. Months of rioting, invasive propaganda, and naked social revolution engulfed the West. The culture war had died and was replaced with a cultural regime, not beholden to truth, to tradition, or to the rules of behaviour governed by the word hypocrite. What was once a joke had become very serious indeed. Now, the cultural regime has infected every facet of public life: sport, film, music, TV, local and national politics, the armed forces, quangos, and heritage foundations. In many ways, it was our own fault. To avoid fighting a smaller competitor, we let it grow to twice our size. While our punches can wound, theirs devastate. We, the self-appointed defenders of the West, let the biggest threat to it in living memory rise to prominence. Why? Because we were too busy laughing.